Dad Doom.
Hi, Dr. Redlener. What's the answer? Can rats carry COVID? I might have something else. There's 3 dead rats upstairs, and these 2 are useless. They won't help me dispose of them or rebait the traps or do anything. So I will have more time to get whatever. Hantavirus? Could I get hantavirus in addition to COVID?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You're not going to get anything. You're basically invincible.
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Because I've had COVID and 3 shots. Is that what you're saying?
COVID, 3 shots.
Should I get a
just don't think
bubonic? Should I get a bubonic plague shot today?
You can if you want to. I'm not going to recommend it.
Okay.
See,
You
when
don't
Dr.
mind.
when Dr. Doomworks blew off air,
Right.
and we just asked that, he said, "Well, not if they wear a condom." See, that's funny, Dr. Doom.
Shit.
That's funny.
You
Sort
just
of.
put the image in my head of a rat condom.
Teeny tiny. Well, we know
know, who
deer.
said
We
that,
know
Chris?
deer.
Yes.
Deer carry COVID, right? Haven't they found COVID in deer?
Well, dogs can carry COVID.
No.
Cats?
Oh.
Could the rats give the dogs COVID
Oh,
and
boy.
pass it on up to the food
Oh,
chain?
You're,
and
you're
stuff?
getting into dangerous territory
Yeah.
there, Chris.
Okay.
I don't know.
I am in mid-rat apocalypse, so I apologize for my nerves. But as you say on Twitter, yes, Omicron is a concern, but Delta variant is still surging at about 1,300 deaths a day. If the trend continues, I anticipate the U.S. will hit 1 million COVID deaths by the first quarter of 2022. I mean, I have to say, Doc, I know there's some silver linings, but I just... You know the thing where Nancy Pelosi just said, I will never forgive, Trump for January 6th and the trauma? I feel like, and counsel me, because you have a much better bedside manner. I feel like I will never forgive the portion of our population that has kept this going so long and variants mutating and affecting all of our lives and to get to 1 million COVID deaths. I feel like I will never forgive the anti-vaxxer type people that just continue the misinformation and the deaths and the variants. How do I deal with that emotionally?
Well, first of all, here's what I told Nicole Wallace this yesterday. We now have an America of have and have nots, have vaccine and have not vaccine. The people that have had the vaccine and now the booster shots are in really pretty good shape. So let's say we're talking about Omicron, and we're all worried about that. Are we going to get Omicron and we're not going to be protected with the vaccines that we've taken? Well, what it looks like is this. If you've had the disease of COVID-19
Yes.
and you've had 2 shots, you're going to be pretty protected from Omicron or anything else that we know of at the moment. If you didn't have the disease and you've had 2 shots and a booster, you're going to be protected. So again, what we have is this crazy situation where it's if we get to 1 million deaths between now and the end of March, let's say, of 2022, those deaths are going to be almost exclusively among the unvaxxed.
Yeah.
It's just extraordinary, And again, what I said yesterday was, this is kind of this toxic combination of politics and stupidity. And I don't know what the antidote to that is. I mean, you could probably deal with politics. I'm not sure what the antidote to stupidity is, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
But
And people are endangering themselves in ways that are just mind-boggling.
Talk about this
Think about it.
as a doctor, though. I just said to Carl Frisch, this is why the partisanship still boggles my mind. Don't you find as a doctor that self-preservation, the will to live, is one of the strongest instincts in the world, regardless of your politics? The fact that,
No,
people
I don't.
will not protect themselves because they've decided
They
they're...
will not protect themselves. And I think what's going to turn out when we look back on this someday, when, it's finally over, when we're analyzing, why do we have so many people die? Who were they?
Yeah.
I mean, how many messages can you give to people that will break through a recalcitrance that has to do with partisan politics, ideology, and undying support for Donald Trump, which in some way now means, well, I'm going to prove how much I love him by not getting a vaccination.
Yeah.
That would save my life. Well, if they taught something about this in medical school, I must have missed that
Missed
class
it,
because
yeah.
Yeah, I missed it. I missed other classes, but I particularly missed this class. But
You didn't miss many classes being the head of whatever at Columbia, but okay, let's whatever. I don't even know the whole long name of it. But let's look at the silver lining. Experts say there are some early but encouraging signs that our immune systems have amassed a range of tools to fight COVID. One doc said it may be that our antibodies may not work as well, but the immune system has these backup plans that give us some resilience against Omicron. There are early indications that boosters may be needed to counter the drop in antibodies with Omicron. Pfizer, as we know, said a third dose is offers comparably strong protection against the virus. So here's the part. So even as antibodies levels wane against the variant, the immune system may still be primed by vaccines from previous infections to remember the virus. The focus is now on whether the parts of the system that power long-term protection, the T cells is what they're talking about, right, will hold up against Omicron. So talk to us about our T cells, Dr. Redlener.
well, the immune system is pretty complicated. And part of it is the antibodies, which are floating around in the blood. And part of it is this phenomenally nuanced, sophisticated other part of the immune system that has to do with T cells and B cells. And these are the cells that have been primed to produce antibodies when confronted with particular kinds of new dangers. And that priming comes from both having had the disease and from having been vaccinated. So even if you can't measure appropriate antibodies, neutralizing antibodies that will shut down COVID from a blood test, can't identify it.
Yeah.
You do have the backup plan, which are the T cells and the B cells.
Yeah.
But what we know is, and what the CEO of Pfizer said is the case. It's true.
Yeah. Well,
like I said earlier, you get 2 shots and a booster. You're going to be protected. You may get infected. You may get mild symptoms, but what you're not going to get is hospitalized, and you're not going to get dead. And that is really what the goal is right now, to make sure that every individual that is paying attention will understand that the vaccinations with the booster shot or the vaccinations on top of an infection, previous infection, that's what's going to carry you through this.
Can I say, when we get through this, Travis, this sounds like one of your cool superhero nerd movies. Antibodies are your first line of defense, one doc said, but we have other cells that can recognize the virus in completely different ways. There are 2 types of T cells designed to lie in wait until they detect foreign invaders.
Right.
T cell's actually my superhero name.
One type, known as T helper cells, coordinate the body's various immune responses. The second, called cytotoxic T cells or killer T cells, are designed to recognize tiny snippets of the virus inside cells and eliminate them.
Angry.
Pew, pew, pew. Or like Pac-Man, Doc, right? Like a Pac-Man movie.
Waka,
Okay.
waka, waka, waka.
T helper cells are like the generals of the immune system, and killer T cells are like the assassins. Mm-hmm. This is a cool movie.
I got all of them.
Pew, pew.
Waka, waka, waka.
Yeah.
Or like if Woody Allen wasn't, Woody Allen, it would be good to have remember with the sperm talking to each other and everything you always want to know about sex before they went out the chute, their helmets. Yeah. Okay. Doctor said if we can't get back the world vaccinated, we're going to continue to see variants like Omicron. There's the bad news. My big concern is the implications for whatever next variant comes in the future. You've been telling us this every week, Doc, that I just didn't, honestly, I'm maybe too happy-clappy. I did not think we would still be talking about the race of vaccines and variants still, right? And that now we have to worry about what's next after Omicron. And this is the problem. It's going to keep mutating until, our vaccines don't work, perhaps, right?
Well, it's that, but it's also, we cannot take a sort of personal U.S. centric view of this, because where are we going to see these mutations and variants manufactured? It's going to be in places that are under vaccinated.
Yeah,
they're not the virus is not being controlled by vaccines. So when you look at Africa, where many countries have vaccine rates that are less than 10%, sometimes less than 5%, those are places that will generate these mutations that will spread around the world and affect all of us.
Yeah. Real quick,
So,
you wrote a great piece, and it's so funny. I'd been Without benefit of a medical degree of any kind. I've been saying the same thing, but you just said COVID treatment pills are here, but they're no replacement for vaccines. Read why. I hope we link to this piece. You just said, ironically, there are ways the new medications could hurt the wider effort to end the pandemic. Thank you for making this point that while this is good news, you said the fact is there's a major and serious downside from a public health point of view. The availability of pills to treat COVID could discourage vaccine resistors and hesitators from getting vaccinated. Unvaccinated people might now think, oh, if I come down with COVID, I'll just get a prescription, take pills for a few days, I'll be out of the woods. And you said, what a disaster if such attitudes slow global vaccination efforts, the only effective strategy to really tamp down the pandemic. And as you just talked about, unvaccinated community, that's where it festers. These places serve as breeding grounds for new mutations like Omicron and whatever else is on the horizon. You say, yes, a safe and effective pill will save lives, but it won't be able to actually shut down the COVID pandemic. It's also worth keeping in mind that COVID, if the diagnosis isn't made within the first few days of symptoms, there's a question of whether the new pills will even work. Are timely diagnosis even possible everywhere in the world? I keep saying this, Doc. Don't play Russian roulette with your life and your health. Get vaccinated. This is great, there's a pill, but there's a lot of ifs in there, right?
So let me ask you this, Stephanie. What if somebody said, I want to play Russian roulette with my life. I want to because I'm so addicted to the anti-vax conspiratorial theories, etc., that it's worth it to me to play Russian roulette. And at some point, you have to, you're throwing up your hands. You get to a point with some people where there's nothing more that you can say because they don't accept facts, they don't accept the truth, and they do accept the fact that they're playing Russian roulette. I mean, people actually play the real Russian roulette, with a pistol with one bullet in it.
Yeah.
Why do people do that?
Because that's fun.
I don't know. Same thing here, really.
I mean, you end perfectly. You say, get vaccinated, make sure the same protection is afforded your children. Then we can save the new medications for serious breakthrough cases in vaccinated people or for those who have serious underlying medical conditions. I keep saying, we didn't reach herd immunity with polio or smallpox. We eradicated it with vaccine. And it's just, it's the fact that we can do this and still aren't, Doc, is, I know, endlessly. And also, you said Rachel ran a WTF segment on people bathing in and ingesting magic mud to cure and prevent COVID and dipping babies in this lead arsenic-laden poison. These parents should be charged with criminal child abuse. Thank you. And you just said enough of this insanity. That people are doing this rather than getting vaccinated and eradicating this, right? It is just... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I'm getting more and more cynical about how to convince people that are addicted to those kinds of theories. It's hard to know what to say, and truly, this is not something you learn in medical school or even getting a public health degree. We were not provided the tools to deal with this any more than you are, actually. The doctors are not any more prepared to deal with these recalcitrant individuals who are playing Russian roulette with their lives.
Right. That's a good point. You're used to people coming to you to work together to save their life.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, doctor, how can I make sure I don't get this disease and die?
Yes, you had a similar goal, keeping the person alive, and now, right.
Yes, but if the goal is not the same, the doctor and the patient have different goals, the doctor is stymied. This is where we're stymied, Steph.
I know. Well, we need to change your name to something even darker than Dr. Doom. Yeah. Dr. Dark. Now, I don't know, something darker than Doom.
No, because, listen, I have good news for the people that are vaccinated.
Okay.
You are going to save your life. Save your life.
Yes.
Hooray.